Right now at 6, voters are casting their ballots before the polls close in about an hour and a half. Live look here outside of voting site in Gaston County, North Carolina, one of 15 states holding primaries on this Super Tuesday. And Queen City News is your local election headquarters. Good evening at 6. I'm Brian Blakely.
And I'm Alicia Barnes. Well, tonight we have crews all across the state ready for the results to start pouring in.
And we're live in Mecklenburg County and Gaston counties, as well as Greensboro, Raleigh, and Charleston.
And we begin in Mecklenburg County tonight, where Queen City News reporter Maureen Wirtz is live at the Elections Board. And right now, I should say, the Board of Elections. And Maureen, you spoke with elections officials there. So how is voter turnout?
Alicia, you know, it's kind of been a slow day, and I just checked in with them a couple of minutes ago, and they said everything has been steady and easy, which is great, but they've been surprised at how few voters have turned out. But right now, the focus right now is at 7:30. You can see there's some tables up behind me. This will be the spot. After a lot of those votes are cast, they'll be brought here and counted. But overall, they did say they expected more people to come out and vote today, and there's still time, but it's just been a little bit different. And if you think back to 2020, that's really the last time we had this level of primary here, and a lot of things have changed, especially when I think about 2020 with COVID. But this year, there's also been quite a few changes, and officials say voting today is one way to prepare you for November.
Every one we do is we're warm up, moving on to the next and learn from the next one to the next one. That's kind of the way it is in the business, especially with all the law changes we've had this year in North Carolina in election law. So if you want to practice to make sure you know how to vote in November, go vote in the primary.
So again, slow Super Tuesday here so far, but polls close at 7:30, and at 8 or 9 is when things will start to pick up here, because there are 195 precincts here in Mecklenburg County, and folks will be driving in this parking lot and dropping off those votes. And you know, Alicia, Brian, we will definitely be keeping an eye on everything.
Maureen, for sure. And let's go ahead and keep an eye focused on Gaston County right now, where election officials say turnout is somewhat lower than 2020 there, but not by much. So let's check in now with Queen City News anchor Derek Dellinger, live at one of the polling locations in Belmont. And Derek, what are you seeing right now at this last hour of voting?
What we've basically been seeing is an echo of what has kind of been a thing countywide. As we were mentioning just a second ago, the numbers are lower than 2020, but not necessarily by much, at least according to what the elections officials are telling us right now. That being said, the crowds here, specifically at Gaston College's Kimball campus, which is the voting location here, they have started to dissipate over the last hour or so. We saw a bit of a rush once people were getting off work, but since then it has died down at least somewhat. Now, we wanted to get a sense of how the vote is going today. We had a chance to talk to some voters, and they say the new voter ID laws were not that much of an issue once you actually got into the precinct. In addition to that, Gaston County, along with every other county we've reached out to, has reported no real issues, which is good news for hopefully a fast result once the polls close. Now, we didn't necessarily want to talk to people about who they voted for, but we did want to talk to them about why they are voting. Here's what they had to say.
I'm voting today to practice my right to vote. Yeah. I think it's important, especially for women.
We need to see a change in this country.
Yeah.
We need, I'm afraid for my kids and my grandkids.
Now, you only have about an hour and a half left to vote, and we should mention here in Gaston County, there are a couple of other races that are being watched out for as well. Some county commissioner seats along with judges and some state house seats. We'll have those results coming up just a little bit later on tonight. We're live in Belmont. Derek Dellinger, Queen City News.
Derek, thanks. Voters across the Tar Heel State will also cast their ballot in the gubernatorial race. 4 Democrats are battling it out in the primary. Attorney General Josh Stein, Mike Morgan, Sherelle Booker, and Gary Fox. Stein has been leading in the polls.
And in the Republican primary race, it's current Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson facing off between Dale Folwell and Bill Graham. The race for governor of North Carolina is said to be one of the most competitive in the country this fall. And first, let's get to Queen City News reporter Daniel Pierce, who is at the watch party tonight for Mark Robinson in Greensboro. So, Daniel, what's the atmosphere like where you are?
Anticipation is a big atmosphere that we see all along the election cycle, but it is really big here in Greensboro. Greensboro, a special place for Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, but whenever he shows up, it's not going to be as warm of a welcome as you would find in other places, simply because there are 2 LED screens that are on back of old U-Hauls that have been making their way around the convention center side, essentially criticizing his stance, calling it hypocritical whenever we talk about abortion. As you remember, he once wants to roll back abortions from 12 weeks to 6 weeks, and he says we'll go from there. Still, though, he remains the Republican frontrunner in this race, getting praise from former President Donald Trump this past weekend while he made his rally in Greensboro this past weekend, calling Mark Robinson MLK on steroids. Again, Greensboro, incredibly important for Mark Robinson. This right here, not only was he born here, this is where his political beginnings began back in April of 2018, whether he realized it or not, whenever he took a passionate plea regarding gun control to city council there. That went viral, and then ever since then, he has just had this momentum. Lieutenant Governor, the only political office that he has held. Now he is looking to make history. Right now, he doesn't have unanimous support. Polls looking back to December showed 49% of Republicans say that they are still on the fence. That is why we've seen Mark Robinson out rallying the voters, trying to ease the mind of any doubters that are still on the fence. We do want to make note, too, that another poll shows him going up against Josh Stein, that it is an election matchup between the two is tied 41 to 41%. We're going to be live in Greensboro throughout the night. We're going to be keeping an eye on this watch party and take any acceptance speeches whenever they do come. Live in Greensboro, Daniel Pierce, Queen City News.
All right, Daniel, thanks for that. Of course, Josh Stein is the front runner on the Democratic side, so let's talk about that race now. Queen City News anchor Robin Kennedy live in Raleigh, where Democratic candidate for Governor Josh Stein will be watching those polling numbers come in. So Robin, Stein says that he has built a diverse coalition of support. How can that help him tonight?
Yeah, Alicia, Josh Stein is well known in the Democratic Party. He's entrenched here, and he's the party favorite. Now, he also has some ties to the Queen City. He grew up in Charlotte and in Chapel Hill, but he's not taking anything for granted tonight. He was out today talking with voters, trying to get their votes. He went to polling places in Johnston and Durham counties. Josh Stein is a two-term attorney general in North Carolina. He was elected in 2016 and 2020, and the attorney general is often the pathway to the governorship in North Carolina. Stein is the front runner here, and he was endorsed by Governor Roy Cooper. He worked as Cooper's consumer protection chief when Cooper was attorney general. Stein was in the governor's race 8 months before his main opponent, former state Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan, so he garnered lots of support there. And another interesting tidbit is if he is elected governor, Stein would be the first Jewish governor in North Carolina. Reporting in Raleigh, Robin Kennedy, Queen City News.
Robin, thanks. Let's talk about one of Stein's opponents tonight. Queen City News reporter Casey Jones live in Raleigh, where supporters for Democratic candidate Mike Morgan are going to be watching the votes closely as they come in tonight. Casey, what are some of the challenges that Morgan faces tonight?
The biggest challenge, money. Retired North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Mike Morgan has faced criticism for his fundraising. At this point, he's only raised about $108,000 compared to his biggest opponent, North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, with more than $11 million. Still, Justice Morgan has tried his hardest in this race. He put out this campaign video back in November. The video, Hard Steps, tells the story of Morgan integrating his North Carolina elementary school as the first black student in a sea of white students. He explains the struggles and how he persevered through it all. He uses that experience to segue into his law career, serving 44 years in state government with 34 years on the bench as a judge. Justice Morgan credits his education for propelling him forward, which is why that's one of his big platform points. Justice Morgan is going into this race we know as the underdog. He actually announced his run for governor 8 months after his opponent.
He is seen as the underdog, but he's not. So the strategy is Mike has been known in the state of North Carolina for a very long time. He's done a lot of great things, and people know and like him. So our strategy is we've gone where the people are, so the people can make their choices and no one else. And what people say doesn't matter, because the voters are going to say what they want at the end.
This watch party is happening at a pretty cool space. I want to point out behind me, there are some old cars here. You see the TV set up. Everybody is ready to watch the election results. His team hasn't quite started coming in yet, but we are told they'll be here within the next 30 minutes, and he should be here by 7:15. We'll be here throughout the night for you. Reporting live in Raleigh, Casey Jones, Queen City News.
Indeed, just in time as the polls close. All right, Casey, thanks. Queen City News will continue our election coverage as Super Tuesday rolls on. Scan the QR code on your screen. You're going to be sent right to our website at qcnews.com. And then tune into Queen City News at 10 for all the latest results from the top contests.